Now in this case we're parking on the near side of the car as we approach. We keep checking ahead regularly as we're counting the lines, and we stop when the third line reaches the designated point on the passenger door. You then put the car into reverse, optionally turning the indicator off, and then you start moving, turning to full lock straight away. When you feel that the car is almost straight, you very quickly straighten your steering wheel 1.5 turns, or whatever number of turns is required for your car, and then continue into the bay until you feel that the car is centered within the depth of the bay. Now some people have trouble trying to work out where to start counting from. So the easiest thing to do is just to remember that line 0 and line 1 are the lines that surround your chosen bay. And then proceed up to line 3, stopping at the usual spot. Now put the car into reverse and turn the indicator off. Now just note that in some jurisdictions you do need to leave your indicator on, so you need to check on that just depending on where you are in the world. Now if you have stick-on parking mirrors attached to your normal mirrors, then it'll make life a lot easier for you because you'll be able to see the white lines next to you as you're reversing in. Now get yourself straight and just continue into the bay till you feel that you're central, either by using your camera if you've got one or just by general observation. Now if you're no good at numbers, you can always use the alphabet, so instead of 1, 2 and 3 it's A, B and C. So just drive up to line C and everything else is the same. So coming up to your designated point and stopping, put the car in reverse, have a good look around, and when you start moving backwards it's full lock straight away. So you'll get pretty close to the other car there and you'll cut across that white line, but that's okay, that's the normal path. And when you get straight, just straighten your front wheels up, continue into the bay, and work out when you're far enough in, either by using your camera if you've got one, or general observation. Now because the reverse park requires you to turn the car to exactly 90 degrees, it's very important that you keep a straight path on your approach. In this case we're going to park on the far side of the parked car, but everything's still the same. You just choose your bay and count forward 3 lines. Now of course you'll be looking around in all directions before you start reversing, but in this particular case you need to pay attention to the other car that's already there. So when you get to about this angle, you need to turn your head and actually eyeball that car to make sure that you're not going to hit it, and then proceed into the bay. Now your reversing sensors are probably going off at that point. Just pay attention to them just in case it's not the car next to you, but it might be some other object in the car park. Now how does the 3-line method work? Well, it requires the bays to all be the same width, in this case 2.4 metres or 8 feet. If the parking spaces in your city aren't a standard 2.4 metre width, then that's not a problem. You just need to adjust your practice to take account of the differing parking bay width. If they're inconsistent width, that can be a problem, but hopefully you won't go to a car park like that in your driving test. So we alluded to it earlier, but how do you know when to stop when you're reversing into the parking bay? So you could glance at your reversing camera if you've got one, or you could line yourself up on the car next to you if it was facing the same way, or you could keep reversing in until your shoulder reaches the point that's halfway along the white lines. At that point you'll be positioned centrally in the bay. So what about reverse parking on the other side? Well, it's a little bit different, but at the same time you do a lot of the same things. You're still indicating, you're still driving up to 3 lines, you're stopping at the 3rd line. The difference is when you look out the window, you're looking directly out the driver's window at the 3rd line, not across the passenger side. So in this case you've just got to use your best judgment as to when to stop, and it's roughly when your steering wheel or your external mirror is in line with that 3rd line. It's a little bit difficult to tell because you're sitting back from the steering wheel, but it's your best guess, and as you practice it you just get better at it. Everything else is the same. Get yourself straight, reverse into the bay, position yourself centrally, and stop. Now the trick with forward parking is to have a nice wide angle of approach, and this will help to ensure that you get yourself reasonably straight as you start to enter the parking bay. Now it's quite difficult to keep the front corner of your car completely within the bay as you approach, and that's compounded by the fact that you can't actually see the corner of your car. So taking the widest possible approach is important. So here's another example of that forward parking manoeuvre, this time just showing you what might happen if there was a car parked on both sides. So we need to have the widest approach possible. That approach probably wasn't wide enough, and if there was a car there we'd have a bit of a problem. So best to avoid parking with a car on your far side if possible. So in this case we're parking with the car on the far side, but nothing on the near side. So with practice you'll know when to turn. It's roughly when your shoulder is halfway between the two white lines of the previous bay. As you come in, just got to be careful you don't get too close to that car on the far side. And when you're working out when to stop, it's when your shoulder is halfway along the length of those white lines when you look out the driver's window. So that's pretty much it. We hope you found that useful, and if you like what you saw, could you please subscribe to our channel, or at the very least like the video. We're not really into fancy graphics or musical scores, but we hope that what you saw there helps you in your quest to pass your driving test. Thank you very much for watching, and we send you our best wishes from sunny Perth, Western Australia.